Hello everyone, welcome to Miscellaneous. Today I show the gameplay by Yuri and Roland, and this beautiful game complete in only 28 moves. And the game starts with the pawn to E4, D6, D4, E6, Knight C3, Knight F6, F4, and after this the bishop to E7 and preparing for the short castling with the king. And now the knight F3 and the black just go for a short castling. And this is the first 5 move, and you can see that the black has very fast keep the king away from the center. And after this the white just continue to develop bishop to D3, and at this has an edge because you have more activity on the board with more pieces in the 16th square. So you can see 3 of the pieces is nicely placed in this 16th square. And after this the black continue to play with c5, and here the white capture the pawn, d takes c5, then the d takes c5, and after this e5 attacking the knight. Now the knight to d5, and after the knight to d5 the white just capture the knight, and after capture the pawn capture back. Then c4 was played from the white, and the black do not want to trade off, instead push the pawn forward, d4. So in this position this pawn can be captured as well. If you capture, then the bishop will capture, then the queen will just attack the queen and go for the action. After king capture back the queen, then the black can just play knight to a6, and the position will become equal with the white cannot go for a castling. So this capture the pawn can be played as well, and in the actual game d4 was played. After this bishop to d2, then the black continue to attack and develop the bishop to g4 and pinning the knight. So bishop to g4 was played, and after this h3 was played, and here white has a good play, and if any of the bishop move such as f4 it will be captured by the bishop, f5 will be captured by bishop, and if you move to h5 then the bishop will be trapped. So in the actual game after h3 the black move bishop to h5, and this is a tactical blunder with losing the bishop. So after this a g4 was played, and the white do not plan to go for a castling and instead to win the bishop. So bishop to g6, then f5, then this bishop is being trapped. So after this capture the pawn, and now the white just use the pawn to capture, and you also can use the bishop to capture as well. So in the actual game the pawn capture will be stronger, as this allows the g file to open and attack the king at g file. So in the actual game the g takes the pawn, g takes f5, and if you play with capture with the pawn, you capture the bishop with the bishop such as bishop takes, and the queen will just move to c7, and after this the white can go for a short castling, then the knight to c6, and this game is playable as well, but it will be more stronger if you put the rook at the g file and capture with the pawn. So in the actual game, the pawn captured, and after this, knight to c6. Now the knight is attacking the pawn. Then the queen to e2 protect the pawn. After this, bishop to h4 and check the king. And here the king just move away to f1 to avoid from being checked. And after this, if in this position you can just use the knight to capture, but it will be less strong. For example, after knight capture, then the queen will capture, and now if the king move to d1, then the queen will come to d3 and keep on the attack, such as the queen can attack the pawn. And also you have the idea of the queen attack the bishop at d3, and this knight will be actively to attack the pawn, and we bring the rook to e8 and attack the pawn. So with this, the black will have more activity to play in the game. So in the actual game, the white just move the king to f1, and after this the bishop move to bishop g3, and in this position the better move will be move the rook to e8 and attack the pawn, and also you can bring the queen into the action, such as you can bring the queen to c7 and attack the pawn as well. So bishop g3 was great, and after this, now this the white just bring the rook to g1 and preparing to attack with the g file, and the bishop just back to h4 again, and this move going to g3 and h4 will be losing a tempo. And here the white continue to play a queen to e4 and attack the bishop, and after this the bishop just back to e7, and now the pawn just push to f6 and will be winning the bishop, and the bishop is being trapped. Another at this point is that you can play a very strong sacrifice, such as the rook takes g7, and this will be complete winning and mate. So for example, if you use the rook to capture, and it will be a check, and if the king move to h8, and now you push the pawn to f6, and the queen will just attack the h7 pawn and checkmate the king. And again, nothing much the black can do, and if you just capture with the pawn, same, the queen you just capture the pawn at h7 and it will be a checkmate. And if you move away the pawn such as h5, and the same will be a checkmate as well. Therefore, after this brilliant rook sacrifice, and here if you use the king to capture, then again come with the beautiful f6 attack, and this is a check, and this is attack the bishop, and this could be a double attack and check. And now the king again only have these two places to move. If you move to g8, then the queen will just capture the h7 and will be checkmate. And if you move to h8, the queen will again capture the pawn and it will be a checkmate as well. So the pawn no need to capture the bishop, and this will be a completely checkmate. So after this, the king cannot move any of the in front square such as g6 or h8, because is being controlled by the queen diagonal and the bishop diagonal. And this is a very beautiful sacrifice with the rook. But in the actual game, after bishop to e7, f6 was played, and after this, g6 was played from the black. And this is the first 20 move, and you can see that white is clearly winning. And now the white just capture the bishop and win another pieces. And after this, queen just capture the pawn, and now the white continue to attack with bishop to g5 and attack the queen. So bishop to g5 and attack the queen. After this, the queen just moved to e6, and now the rook bring up to g3, trying to protect the pawn at h3 because the queen trying to attack the pawn. And after this, the knight just moved to b4 and trying to attack the bishop and minimize. The white continue to play a bishop f6 and preparing to go for a queen to h4 and h6, and just a very simple queen to g7 checkmate. So after this position, the knight just capture the bishop to minimize the pieces of the white, and now the queen just capture it back. And now the queen also threatening to play with queen to d2 and go to h6 and also checkmate at the g7. And after this, a6 was played, and now the queen to a4 was played from the white. Then the black continue to play h6, and this is a tactical blunder, which is a very bad move, and this cause the white to win the game and checkmate in 3. I give a couple of seconds to figure out how the white continue to play and mate in 3. Well, congratulations for those who found the answer, and for those who like to enjoy the show, here are the moves that the white play and win the game. And the actual game is that the rook takes g6 and check the king. And here again, the king, if the king move to h7, then the rook will continue to move. You can just move the rook away and it will be an open check. So if you move the rook to g7, then the king will just move to king h8, and you have a queen checkmate, queen to h7 checkmate. And again, now if you can also capture the pawn and check the king, and if the king just capture the rook, then the queen will go to h4 check the king, and the king go to g6, then you have queen to g5 check. And again, if the king back to h7, then you have queen to g7 checkmate. So after the rook check, and again the king cannot come out. If you come out, it will be a completely checkmate. And in the actual game, the black used the pawn to take the rook, and after take the rook, then you have a queen takes g6, and this is a checkmate, and the king cannot have any place to move as the queen is checked and the bishop is controlled the diagonal. And with this, thank you.